Okay, so I'm going to use some of the stuff from the previous video to create a small logo animation in this one. Um, well, basically it's a text animation, but let's see. So I'm going to create text options. I'm going to go with curves. I'm going to write good morning. Yeah. Yeah, good morning. So, well, I was wondering if it should be all capitals. Anyway, so I create this. I get this nice curve object, and I can just go over here. Take a look at that. Yeah. So this is what I have. The problem here is that when I do it like this, I can't update the font, so I'm just stuck with what I have. Whereas if I create the bevel like so, I will in fact, let's just do it like this, I will in fact get the option to change the font. So you can see I got it over here, so I can just update it to something different. Now you'll probably see stuff breaking, like I talked about in the previous video, that bad fonts will not work. So I need to find something that works. Let's just see, just up the size here so I can see what I got. Okay, stuff like this, don't do it. Far too much detail to do it in 3D. Yeah, that could be good. Go down in size again, something like that. Yep. So, yep, I like it. It could be done in bold instead. So let's just go with bold. So that was Adobe Arabic, and I'm going bold. There we go. So here I have a text object. Obviously, if I did it with curves, I'd have to go through each and every one of these. Now I just found a font that actually worked, and you can see that all the settings have been made. I could turn up the quality level slightly, so maybe go curve span, set that to 16, just to make it more smooth, and the same thing for the curve section here, set that to maybe 5. Okay, so you can see I get a fairly dense mesh now. I also get something that is nice and smooth. You can see here I get that funny stuff. I can just, the one thing I didn't do in the previous one was show the effect of clicking the bevel inner curves. This will probably go wrong because I have a fairly thick bevel. So if I do it like this, it almost works for some of them, but you can see it's all a big mess. So basically, if I make this smaller, it may work, in fact. Something like that. So it almost works. Now let's just turn it back. I get something like this. So this, actually this thinner bevel looks a lot nicer in my opinion. So I'm going to go with this. Then I'm going to add materials. This time I'm going to use a special Mental Ray material called Mia Material X. So I'm opening my Hypershade here. There we go. And this time Mental Ray is loaded, so I go under Mental Ray Materials, and I go down to the one called Mia Material X, and I need 2 of those. No, actually I need 3 of those. These are pretty nice materials that are specialized for the Mental Ray renderer. So if I select one of these, you can see there's this presets section up here on the right. This is actually there most of the time, but this has a little star, meaning that there are actually some presets hidden in there. I click that, and I want one to be rubber. I go replace, so it actually changes all the values to make it a standard rubber material, and I can change this to just call it rubber. There we go. The other one here, let's see, we could set this to be copper. I'll set it to copper, like so. Just go copper. There we go. And we take the last one here, and this should be the ground floor, so this would be something like matte finish or satin. I'll go matte finish, like so, maybe slightly wider. I'll just call that floor. There we go. Good. So they're all ready. I have them here. I just close this. Go in, like the previous one. Take it from the side view. Zoom in. Select my face selection and just select the middle one. Just through the middle here. There we go. So you can see I just have the line in the middle here. It can be difficult to see, but yeah, basically it's selected here. And I use Shift and the greater, smaller button, and I just grow my selections until I get all the way to just before the, there we go. And I'm just going to right click on it, and oh, actually I did it in the wrong order, so just do it again. Just select the whole thing, assign existing material, copper. Now everything gets the copper material, and then going to the side view, right click, face, select just the middle one here. There we go. Go to perspective view, go in here, start growing selection. There we go. There we go. And then right click on top of these, go assign existing material, rubber. Yep. So that should be good. Object mode. So I'll just turn this default material off. Okay, so you can see this is basically what I did. I use the default material setting up here sometimes because it makes it easier to see what I'm doing if I have weird materials on. So basically this is it. Now I'd like to animate this. The problem is that this is all one big object. So to break this apart, you can see it's just one surface shape here. To break this apart, I select it and I go to my polygons menu and I go to mesh and I go separate. So it'll take every single element. So this is an element, this is an element. So basically, I guess you get the idea, and you can see the eye is also two different ones. So it separates it all into different pieces. We have all these pieces here. And I'm just going to make a small animation of maybe 50 frames of this being animated. So I just grab these and I'll move these, just put them like this, and go to the last frame. Make sure all of these are selected, like so. Press the S button, or in the animation menu set, animate set key. So you can see we get a little red tick here, and all the translate and so forth over here gets red, meaning it's keyframed. Actually I did something wrong here, because I'm just going to undo. You see every single object here has its pivot point down in the origin. Alright, that's not good. I select all of them and I go modify center pivot. So that means that every single one of them now has the pivot point at the origin of the object, or the center of the object. And now I select all of them, go to frame 50, set a keyframe. I press the S button this time. You can see the little hotkey S there. Go back to frame 1 and I zoom out a little bit and I just start moving stuff off to the sides. I'm just going to create a little random text thing here. It's going to drag them into weird positions, and I'll make this work later. Okay, so they are all hanging out there, and I'm just going to set a key for them, and I'm actually going to rotate them. So I'm just going to go through each of them with the rotate tool. I'll just click in the circle here so I can do some rotation. I just want a random rotation. I can always tune it later if it turns out to not be the sort of rotation I want. So rotating, something like this. Select all of them, press S to set the keyframe. So basically what I have now, if I drag my timeline, is something where everything pops into place. So that is pretty nice. Then what I could do was sort of midway grab these, offset them a little, set key, and go to the next one, drag it, set key, this one, set key. So you can see that I'm sort of just creating a little curve on the flying in of this text. So something like that. So basically just creating a little bit of, it just looks a little more interesting. Perhaps this one needs, yeah, needs a little, something like that. That looks kind of nice. So basically what I have here is just an animation of all the text coming in, and if I zoom in, you can see I'll get a classic like animate into position thing. Good. The next thing I'll do is I'll actually make the whole thing 75 frames long, and I'll grab all these and I'll just go to the window, animation editor, and in this case I'll grab the dope sheet. So the dope sheet is an animation editor where I get each of the objects I have here, and I have the keyframes for them. So I'll just grab them and then delay them. So I'll grab the move tool, and when I click on the object I can then middle mouse button drag here. So I'll just delay each of them by approximately 5 frames. So you can see I'll just create like this staircase. So maybe 75 frames is probably not enough. I'm just going to change that once I have the exact number. So you can see all of them are just offset by 5 frames. And this is actually happening in order, so each of the letters will be coming in order. So I'll just go over here, just see. Actually what I got is something that is 115 frames long. Okay, let's make this 120 just to, oh yeah, 120. So the result is now that they're all offset. So you can see now they come in like, and if we just zoom out, you can see they start offset. So they're all offset in this. So you can see here, the first the G, then the O, then the O. Actually, that's the D moving later. D starts at 17. Okay, so it's not quite on order. I'm not sure why this is. Okay, so basically these two needs to be exchanged. I'll just do that in the animation dope sheet just to make them go in the right order. Don't want anyone to be out of order here, so I just drag that back and drag that forward like so. So now they should be going so the funny thing could be if we take the eye and make it the very last thing coming in. Window, animation, it says dope sheet. And we'll make the eye the last thing, so that's surface 10. So that's this one. So the other three ones here I'll move over, grab them, move them there, and I'll grab 10 and make sure it's the last one, like so. So it'll be the one coming in very last. So if we'll just take a look at that. So yeah. So there's another way to look at animation, and that is in the graph editor. If we look at it here, so that makes sense, right? Now basically this is all the curves for all the objects that does all the animation. So let's just take the dot over the eye, for instance, and then frame that. I press the F button. So we have the translate in Y, in X, in Y, and in Z. And we have the rotation as well. So I'll just concentrate on the translation first. I'll just press F. So you can see it starts up the X. It starts out here. It then moves to the left, and then it moves back. So if we look just at the X translation, you can see that it, to right and then down. So you can see that there's like this movement here, which is basically what this hump here tells. So you can see there it's the furthest to the right, and then it goes back. There's a little bit of C movement, so if I just turn the camera on the side, you can see that it starts out there and it moves a little bit forward. It's not a big movement, it's just a little bit. And for the Y, it starts on the top and then moves down, and it actually slows into position. You can see that this is flat, so that means that it sort of decelerates. So you can see that it goes down and go. There we go. So this is basically what I wanted for this. So I'll just need to frame up my logo like there, and I need to create a backdrop, and I'm going to create a polygon plane. I'm just going to make it bigger. Let's see. Oh, it cuts my G. I'll fix that. Just make it plenty big, and just move it down a little bit. So it'll be like this. And I'll take this and I'll just assign a right click, go assign existing, and I'm going floor here. Okay. If I just click render, I'll probably get something that is black. Hopefully. Oh, okay, I got the mental ray, so it rendered it in the end. I thought it was set to myself, but anyway, so this is my render. Doesn't look too exciting. Oh, one thing. Remember to save. Just save this as my good morning logo. There we go. And then, like the previous exercise, I go to my render settings, and I'm going to indirect lighting, create image-based lighting, select here, and I need some sort of image. Let's go, let's see, where did I have the frame? I had an HDR image. Let's just look at this. I have no idea what it is. Oh yeah, it looks right. So basically, this is what is called sort of a studio light. So this is an HDR image of just some super bright splats, and that is what is going to be used to light this scene. So in my render settings, I just turn on, well, I'll wait with Final Cut. I'll just render this, and we get, just take a second. There we go. So you can see this is it. Not really so interesting. I turn on Final Gathering, and let's try again. Über bright. We need to tune this down, but we can do that. Just reduce this a little bit, just take a little section and see what happens. Yeah, I'm just going over here. I'm going to turn down the color again. I'm going to turn off primary visibility so we won't see this thing up here. Let's just see. Just need to bring it down far enough. So just go adjust final color, final gather, color effects, turn this down to maybe 50% and then see if that fixes it. Simply too much light in the scene right now. Something like that. I'll create a light, a directional, and make it really faint. I'm just going to do this, and I'm going to turn down the intensity quite a bit. There we go. Basically this will make sure that Maya does not create a default light. So you can see I start to get something a little bit interesting here. Good. And I'm going to my render settings, and I go quality, set this to production. I'll turn the sample level down to 1, and usually for multi-pixel filtering, if I want it sharp, I'll set it to Lankas. Okay, just turn this off, just render it again. Okay, so I'm not sure what happened there. That was weird. Just try this again. Alright, interesting. So basically everything is dark now. I'll just turn up the light a little bit and see if that fixes it. Oh yeah, it looks like my final, oh yeah, obviously. When I set this to a preset, I turned file gathering off. That was the problem. Okay, so that was why it was suddenly all black. So we're just going to do this again. There we go. So this is more or less what I want. Let's see, quality, set this to 1. I need my indirect lighting set to something lower. Let's go. That was good, that was good, that was good. Yeah, it's about right there. Okay, good. So what I'm going to do is go to common, select my camera. This is the right camera for me. I'm going to set the frame extension to name_number, the padding to 4. I'm setting the end frame to 115, and then basically close this, and just want to reduce this color gain by a little bit, and the final gather effect by a little bit as well. And then I go to rendering, render, batch render, and I'll be back in a few seconds when it rendered. Okay, so the rendering is done. It took an hour to complete the rendering, and I actually did a couple of changes to the setup before I set it to rendering. I set it to the small HD 720 just to get a little bit better view, and I also upped the settings a little bit. And I changed something for the Final Gather settings that I'll explain in just a second, but let's just see the sequence. So I'll go to File and then View Sequence, and it's here. Just grab the first image, go open, and it launches FCheck. So this is the animation, and it seems like I pretty much avoided intercollision between letters, and a bit of that is of course luck, but also the thing where we offset each letter by a few frames has a tendency to help a lot in that area. So you can see that I have this shadowy area down here, and what I did was I used Final Gather to create this based on the image-based lighting we looked at. I also added something called ambient occlusion, which is another shadow effect, and I actually made this floor slightly reflective, but it seems like that effect is a little bit lost in the end here, so never mind about that. We'll use this sequence. So I'll close this. Okay. And I'll just show the settings I did. So basically in the Common tab I did what I showed before, from 1 to 115, name underscore number dot extension, frame padding of 4. I'm using the Maya IFF, that is the default file format for Maya. I'm rendering through the perspective camera, since that's the only perspective camera I have. There's nothing else, there's just orthographic cameras as well. And I set the image size to the presets of HD 720, that's the small HD. The big HD is the one called HD 1080. But 720 is something that is used very much on TV, on HD channels. In the quality settings, I ended up setting the max level to 2, and I set the multi-pixel filtering to Lankas, as I showed. For the indirect lighting, I tweaked the Final Gathering settings a little bit. The accuracy stays at 100, but I changed the point interpolation to 40. To just quickly explain what that means is that it will sample 40 points whenever it is shading a pixel. So it will find the 40 nearest Final Gather points and use those when calculating the brightness of a pixel. So you can imagine this sort of like in Photoshop when you have a blur filter, like Gaussian blur. You set a pixel radius, and the higher that is, the more blurry it will be. That is basically the idea here. So I won't get a sharp shadow effect, or I'll get a less sharp shadow effect. But in return, I reduce some of the artifacts with I can get sort of like dots, and I can get flickering. Another thing I did was I went into the Final Gather tracing part here, under the quality and so forth, and I changed the mode from automatic to animations. And the idea here is that this is supposed to reduce flickering, time-based flickering, even more for animations. Then at the bottom I turned on ambient occlusion. So this is like a master switch for enabling ambient occlusion calculation for shaders. And basically ambient occlusion looks at the distance, or it looks at every point it's rendered and see if it's occluded or something is in the way within a certain area, and it shades it based on that. So basically like points that are into groove sensors will get darker than points that are out in the open. It's a very good effect that will let you render nice shading effects, but without too much trouble. It was used a lot in something like Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, I think. And it works really well to create realistically looking lighting. Also, in the image-based lighting section, I tweaked the settings here. So this is full white on color gain, and I tweaked the color gain on the Final Gather effects to about 50-60%. So let's just have a look. So yeah, 56.6% bright, so 0.566. And I turned off the primary visibility, so we won't see the image-based dome in the background when rendering. So I'll just close this. Actually, just to show you how it works. So if I open my window here, and this is a basic rendering, more or less, just that I did more or less just before I started the render frame or the sequence. If I take my final gathering and set the point interpolation to 0, or close to 0, let's just go, can I set it to 0? Yeah, 1, okay. And I render this frame. I just save this so you can see it's down here in the timeline, or the bottom line here. I can stack images down there. So I'll render this, and it starts rendering. Rendering. So now we should see a very dotted image, hopefully. Not too bad. This might be due to the fact that I have the animation optimization on, in fact. So this actually looks a lot better than I expected. But let's just let it finish. Just takes a few seconds. And there we go, come on. Yeah. So let's just compare the two. So actually, this version looks better than the other one. Yeah, that's a bit weird. But anyway, that might be due to the fact that I have this animation thing on. Basically what we're seeing is more or less uninterpolated final gathering. So that looks pretty good, in fact. Fun. Okay, anyway, let's go on to the last part. So what I'll do now is I'll create a movie using After Effects. So I'll just start up Adobe After Effects. There we go. Yep. Just close that. And what I'll do is I'll import the sequence into my projects area up here. Just go File, Import, File, and I'll just browse to the area where it is located, and I know it's in my Maya Projects Default Images section, and there it is. Good morning. I'll just need to select the first image there, and you can see at the bottom here it says IFF sequence, so it knows that this is a sequence. Import it, and it will ask me how to handle the alpha channel or the transparency of the image. I'll just leave it at straight unmatted. We can change that later. Okay, so we can see here that the good morning sequence is up here. I can double click it. You can see that we now have it here. That's just one little thing here. It's set to 30 frames per second. I want it at 25, so I go to I right click here and go interpret footage main, and I change the frame rate to 25. There we go. Good. And then there's a simple way to set up a composition based directly on these settings. Either drag it down here while this is empty and says none, or you can drag it onto this film strip icon here, and that will create a composition. We can see here that it will show the typical Photoshop way of showing transparency. I can turn this on and off, but in fact I want to have a background that makes this sort of not black. So I go to my layer up here, and I go new, solid, and I have to select a color of some sort. I'm just grab one color here, maybe. Okay, and then just like Photoshop, I'll just drag this below to get something like this. You can see that I get a little bit of an artifact here at the edge. And this can typically be fixed by looking at how we handle transparency. So I go to the Good Morning logo sequence, right click it, and go interpret footage main. And here at the top there's 3 different ways. We can ignore alpha, meaning we don't take the transparency into the scene at all. We can go straight unmatted, or we can go pre-multiplied, which is actually what the sequence is, because Maya and most programs render by default pre-multiplied. Basically this means that edge pixels has a tendency to become darker when it's rendered up against a black background, and if it's a white background, they will become brighter because they're mixed with the background color. That's the simple explanation, basically. Okay, so we get this, and this is basically just what I would like. I could darken the background a little bit, or add a gradient or something, but never mind about that. I actually would like this to just hold for a few seconds at the end. So I want to change the length of everything here. So I go to my Good Morning logo composition, that's a little film strip, right click, go to composition settings, and right now the duration is 4 seconds and 15 frames, so I'll just change this to 6 seconds. Okay, so we can see here we have more here, and I'll just make the background run all the way. Obviously this one I can't make run all the way, so I'll need 1 frame here so that it doesn't just disappear, and I'll just go import file. I'm already in here in the right folder, so I'll just find the Good Morning image, the first one. Oh, sorry, the last one. Go on. There we are. Almost. I'll grab that. I'll turn off the sequence here, so now it'll only take 1 image, and I'll just go pre-multiplied. Yeah, good. So you can see this looks different. This is just 1 frame, and I'll drag it down here like so, and I'll just make sure that it matches up with the end here. So we just get this sequence, the top one that's animated, and when it is finished, the still frame takes over. So that worked pretty nicely. One thing we could do was actually make this fade from black, but we'll look at that at another time. So basically what I have here is a little animation. It looks like this. Okay. And I'll just want to export this as a movie. It's something that people sometimes struggle with, is making sure that it's at a reasonable size. I've seen small few second videos delivered by students that were more than 1 gigabyte. That is not useful at all. So I go to composition and I go make movie, or I can go add to render queue. It basically does the same thing. it adds a project to the render queue, or the current composition. I go into the lossless section because I don't want to create a lossless AVI file. That's basically what will create a file of several hundred megabytes. There's several different things we can do here. We can do an H.264 file directly. That's one option. Or we can go and do a QuickTime. I'll just do the H.264 this time. Actually, I don't use it that often, but it's pretty good. It looks like we have a target bitrate of 15 megabits, which is quite a bit, and a maximum bitrate of 60 megabits. It should be okay. Okay here. So that sets up the output module or the codec, and we have the output too, and this is set to, let's just put it on the desktop, Good Morning Loco MP4. And actually I'll do another one of these. I'll just grab this and I'll go Control C, Control V, oh sorry, Control D to duplicate, and I'll create a second version encoded by QuickTime, and I'll set the format to H.264, which is basically the same as the other one here. I'll set the quality to 80%, and I'll go OK, and let's check this one just a second time here, and yeah, this is good. It looks good, and then I'll just go render, and it'll run through the sequence fairly fast, and it'll play a little tune at the end to tell it's done. And here again. And there we go. So it created both videos, and I'll just grab those off desktop. Let's go to top here. So we can see we have two files. We have the H.264 codec directly, MP4 at 2.3, and we have the QuickTime at 3.6. So I'll just go play this. This animation just set it to loop. So this is our little good morning animation, and not a lot of flickering here, which is also one of the things that I worked a little bit on after the first video. Okay, so this works pretty nice. Let's just try the other one. You can see the color is slightly different in this one, and that is because there is I don't know if it's intentional or something, or a bug, but the QuickTime codec on Windows will create a slightly brighter version of H.264 files, and there's different fixes for it. It's basically I think gamma correcting it a little wrong, but as long as you know this happens, you can take it into account. So that is the two videos, and that's it for now. Thank you.